Welcome back to the Inclusion Revolution, and Natasha Chestnut from Reachability, who's joining us to talk about the issues around social isolation and, most importantly, how to overcome it. Now, Natasha, we were talking a little bit about your own personal experience and certainly the stigma of how other people respond, especially when you look good and you're trying to, you know, reach, and you do look good, I should say that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, there's nothing to do with the disability. But one thing you said that I thought was really important was understanding your disability, but not just thinking about yourself as that one disability, but more holistically, which makes you feel maybe more purposeful in life. But Reachability in particular, I know, has been doing some sort of out-of-the-box creative stuff when it comes to ensuring that the clients that they're exposed to are less socially isolated. Can you share with us some of the so-called revolutionary, as I like to call them, ideas?
Sure. Well, we have a couple of newer programs that we've done a lot of thinking this year and really looking at some, more innovative, really unique programs, because we do need to start reaching out more. And I'll tell you about a couple of them. One of the programs we have that'll be coming up soon in March is our Rhythm program. And this is a really, really unique program, and it's a DJ mentorship program. A
DJ mentorship program. So for kids, I'm guessing, although I'm sure I wouldn't mind learning, but what we're talking about is maybe drawing youth out with disabilities and giving them something really constructive to do. Why DJing?
It's, well, they've done it in Toronto, I believe, actually. They've done it, and it was really successful. I guess when you think of it in terms of, you're bringing youth together, there's going to be a DJ, a professional DJ with all of the equipment. So first of all, I think that appeals to youth on many levels. But you're adding in the home music factor, and, most of us know through lots of studies, music is therapy. But plus, you're bringing youth together as a group. They're going to have many things in common. They're going to be coming from a lot of similar backgrounds. A lot of them are going to have had similar experiences. Probably most of them are all going to have experienced social isolation. So right there, it's reaching out and bringing together groups of people who are going through the same thing.
So essentially, in addition to obviously teaching them a skill of DJing and all of that, which is very cool in itself, what I'm hearing is this is an attempt to bring kids that might not otherwise be drawn to a place to do something that also introduces them to like-minded people. In a sense, you're creating an ad hoc support group by bringing these kids together. And it was my understanding previously, when we were talking before the show, that it's like four kids in every group with 2 DJs, which I think is pretty great. And how long would each session run for these kids? Any idea yet? Or is that all worked out?
Well, how it's going to work is there'll be a group of 4 youth that will come. They'll get to come for 8 workshops. So 8 workshops. Each workshop will be approximately 3 hours. And there's actually going to be a food preparation part of that too.
Well, kids don't eat that well, I find, so I'm glad to hear that there's it's me, I like to feed everybody, so I'm glad to hear there's food. But most importantly, we're bringing them together.
Yeah, and I think we're bringing them together in a really sort of fun way, a way that you don't see done very often. And I think that's going to appeal to youth. And that's another thing too, you have to look at your target groups that you're reaching out to, what appeals to them.
Right, and in this group, you were mentioning something around 16 to 19 was your age group.
16 to 19 will be the age group,
Now, I know the report you're talking about from Toronto, because the Toronto school boards actually did a pilot, as I recall. Yeah, I remember reading this. And they were taking kids who were actually getting in some trouble, maybe with some mental health and anger issues, and they were providing them DJ classes. And what they discovered in that was there was a lot of anger management going on. There was a lot of dealing with frustration and anger, and also accepting the fact, creativity, that you are creative, and showing you that you have more to offer than maybe you originally realized, which of course will also bring someone out, because we know when you don't feel you have value, you don't leave the house so much. So I can see how this could be, and I remember reading that report, so I can see how this could be a really forward-thinking idea. What else is going on? Because I know that social isolation is a big issue with Reachability's clients.
We're currently in the process of getting together what we're going to call a games night. So we'll be organizing a night, probably 1 night a week to start off with, and it will be open, not just to youth, just persons in general. They can come to the organization. It'll be 1 night a week where there'll just be various games and activities. And again, I think that just gets people out or gets them interested. Again, they're going to be around people with similar, experiences, going through some of the same issues, and also addressing some of the same barriers.
Right. I think that's so important.
It's almost like group therapy,
it
right?
is.
They get that opportunity to be therapeutic to each other.
Well, we've spoken before about peers, and the concept of bringing a peers together, people who experience disability, have experienced some of those stigmas and some of that isolation and all of those other things that are attached to it, coming together and seeing each other and whatever, playing Scrabble or Trivial Pursuit, it doesn't really matter. They're coming out, they're meeting each other, in a sense, supporting each other. And I guess that's what I'm hearing that Reachability is really taking a turn toward, is that concept of people supporting each other rather than necessarily you who's now a leader, and I know that you're an educator with Reachability, instead of you telling them something, it's each other learning from each other. And I see these environments like games nights and DJing, an opportunity to bring those youth together.
Right.
Right, and I can see where that fits. So what I guess I really want to ask you about is, can you give me an example, like of a client or a person that's really gone from that social isolation to a success? Because that Inclusion Revolution is all about how it's working, why it's working, and how to get that out there. So give me an example of where it really works.
Sure. I can think of one client right away who probably experienced social isolation to the extreme. And it was a client who had agoraphobia and did not leave her house for 10 years.
And that's what that means. Agoraphobia is someone who's fear of leaving or going outside.
It's fear of being in situations you cannot escape from.
Okay.
Which would be anxiety.
Sure, related,
driven, right? So she had a very severe anxiety disorder. And, when you think 10 years not leaving your house, and
is this a young person, if you may ask?
She was a younger woman. I'm going to say between 25 and 30.
So already having spent 10 years in your house at that point, that's a lifestyle.
It is. It does become a lifestyle. And you can just think of how being that isolated from society, how that would fuel other, maybe other issues, right?
Sure.
Like depression, even anxiety, even more, because you're so cut off from everything.
So how could someone like that deal with that kind of social isolation?
Well, she was one of the first in Canada, I believe. It was an amazing story. She has a therapy dog.
Like what we would call like a seeing eye dog or something.
Only she wasn't blind, so her dog was for anxiety. She had it was almost like a companion. So how does this dog get her, somebody who can't leave the house for 10 years, out of a house? What does that dog do for her? I think that dog would be the comfort and the peace of mind of always having the dog with her, and just that feeling of security and safety that you can get from a dog or from animals in general. I'm a big animal lover myself, so I definitely understand the value of having pets and having animals, and they've done massive studies on how animals, just by petting an animal, how that can reduce stress levels and reduce your anxiety. So when you think of her having this dog is a really creative idea on how to deal with social isolation. So what I'm very unique too.
Well, absolutely.
We don't hear of that. We hear of it for people who are
absolutely visually impaired. Absolutely. So what I'm, just to wrap us up a little bit, what I'm hearing is that in order to avoid the social isolation that is common among people with disabilities, the first thing is to look around at your supports. I'm hearing that from you. The second thing is to look for groups and activities that draw you out, and to make sure that you're doing things in a holistic fashion in terms of taking care of yourself and getting ready to do that. And I want to tell you that I wish we had another half hour to talk about it, because this is a big issue, and I think an issue that deserves more time, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So I am going to recommend that people go to reachability.org, and I know you're Natasha at reachability.org if people would like to contact you and talk more about that, or find out more about some of the creative reachability items. So I want to thank Natasha Chestnut for joining us today. You can find out more about what she's up to at reachability.org, and when we come back with Inclusion Revolution, Paul's going to join me for this week's breaking news and our poll of the week. We'll see you then.